Imagine this. You're on television, you're a race announcer, you're an elite athlete, your life could not be going any better. And then you get the phone call. You have cancer. My guest today, Fitz Koehler, is an elite athlete, was living an amazing life, mother, profession just going off the chain, and then gets hit with a diagnosis of breast cancer. 21 rounds of chemotherapy. That would keep the normal person down and probably potentially permanently change how they looked at life, but not Fitz. Listen to her story as she takes it and turns it into a triumph, turns it into an opportunity to become a multiple-time author to help other cancer patients and reframe her perspective on life. This one is a joy. Fitz is the author of multiple books, including My Noisy Cancer Comeback and Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong. A busy keynote speaker and a fitness expert with a master's degree in exercise and sports sciences, she's also one of America's most prominent race announcers, hosting some of the largest and most iconic running events, including the Los Angeles Marathon, Big Sur Marathon, Buffalo Marathon, DC Superhero Series, and many, many more. Her company, Fitzness International, and that's F-I-T-Z-ness, Fitzness International, has a global reach, and she's conquering every avenue of mass media to help people live better and longer lives. Fitz, welcome to the ThriveMore podcast. How are you?
I am spectacular, Roger. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, my pleasure. And I love that. I'm spectacular. What a great answer. Well, you've got a really unique path that just screams resilience. And we've talked a lot on this show about grit and just, never, ever, 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 ever give up. And you've lived that, one through your business ventures, but also through your own health. And you've written very openly about that as well. You've done many corporate keynotes and been in magazines and on television, but it would be great for the listeners and me as well to really understand that Genesis story and kind of how it all started to leading up to our interview today.
So do you want me to go back or back to the health stuff?
Give us a little of the way back just so we can understand you as a person. Yeah.
Yeah. So grew up in Fort Lauderdale, one of 3 kids. We were scrappy. We didn't have too much. We didn't have too little. We were basic, but we were very, very scrappy. My older siblings, 6 and 9 years older, they were elite athletes. I was not. I really wanted to play. I wanted to be on a team. I got cut from lots and lots of things. I got cut from pretty much everything. And I remember coming home and crying after not making softball or cheer or soccer or whatever it was. And my mom would say, you're building character. And I would say, I'm enough of a character. I don't want any more character. I want to wear a uniform, So anyways, I did make a couple of teams in high school, but I blew out my knee playing soccer, which led to physical therapy, and surgery, which led me into the gym to keep my legs strong so I wouldn't re-injure my knee. And that's where I fell in love with fitness. And I had been working at Cinnabon at the time. Cinnabon, the direct opposite of fitness.
I was going to say,
and at the mall. And my manager was super mean. Ronnie, I still look back at that Ronnie. Thank goodness she was mean, because I fled Cinnabon and applied at the gym where I had been exercising, Spa Lady. And that was on a Tuesday. I had an interview and the manager says, well, can you teach a class on Friday? And I said, sure. Thankfully, I'm a gamer. That's a quality that has always benefited me. But I showed up. I probably had about 30 women, and it was a low impact dance class. And, at the start, I said, hey, this is my first class, so I'm going to do my best. When I'm done, I'd love some constructive criticism. Thankfully, I think I had just turned 15, but I had the wherewithal to be honest and ask. And so they were great. They came and said, that was a lot of fun, big personality. You should be louder and you should use your arms more. And I thought, I look back and I think, how was I ever not loud enough? My moniker is noisy right now. So anyways, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with communicating with people, connecting with people, to helping them. And I really saw people do better and live better in every aspect of their life. Their not only their physical health, but their mental health, their social experiences, their professional life. Because they were working out, they started to thrive in these other areas. So I became a big believer. My career started to expand. I came to the University of Florida. I ended up getting a master's in exercise and sports sciences. But along the way, I taught on a cruise ship in Europe. I taught fitness in Russia. I had a television show, Cardio Jam. My career kept evolving. And as it evolved, I kept learning that mass media was the right choice for me. I love connecting with people one-on-one. And, when someone gives me a keynote and there's 500 people in the room, I feel very satisfied. But back in the day when I was teaching only 50 people in a class and just exercise, I found when I taught on television, I could reach thousands or hundreds of thousands at a time. And when strangers approached and said, hey, I love working out with you. I've lost 17 pounds. I'm really, really driven to reach strangers because there's so many more strangers than there are people I know. And so that's where my career gained real focus. There was a passion for just for health and fitness. I'm a big believer. I truly believe it, and I've seen the studies, so it does work. And then I just love people, and this is my role, to help people live better and longer. Yeah. Thankfully, I've been able to do that effectively in many ways, and I'm a very happy girl.
Yeah, I see that with your personality. You're radiating.
Thank you.
I dig that you were 15 though, and just thrown into the fire, and you took the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, what a blessing that I didn't say no or I can't. I think when you get rejected, you learn to be a little more fearless. So sometimes rejection takes people and it pushes them deeper in a hole. And for me, I gained a little more fight for it. I'm so grateful for all of those failures. And I know we're talking to entrepreneurs or potentially entrepreneurs. I am the queen of failure. I have failed so many times. I have failed more than the stories they tell about Michael Jordan. I have failed more than Abraham Lincoln, but it's all led to this really wonderful existence where I fear very little and I'm excited by new challenges. It's those failures have built me up and really prepared me for big deal challenges.
Yeah. It's funny you say that about, you mentioned Michael Jordan and failure. I interviewed somebody who played with Michael Jordan on this show. And I said, why is it that so not every business, not every athlete is great in business, but a lot of athletes go on to be pretty successful in business. And he said, it's simple. They've learned that failure is how you learn. That's how you grow. Like you don't make every shot. In fact, that's why you practice. And failure is just you figured out what not to do. Where in business, we're almost punished for failing and criticized, especially in a corporate environment. Where in an athletic environment, okay, we know that's not how to do it. So let's practice it this way. And it seems like you learned that from a really young age.
I did just because failure was the first thing I knew. I wasn't good. Again, my siblings were superstars and I was not. I rode the bench so hard. If I even made it to the bench, I mean, getting on the bench would have been a real freaking treat. But you know what? When I stood up in front of a fitness class, all of a sudden I was good at something. People were hiring me. They wanted me. I got paid more. I got more opportunities. Fitness was the sport I could play. It really it's worked out very well. I lecture to universities. They bring me in and I normally talk to graduating seniors to help steer them on their way out. And my Create a Career 101 class, that's what I call it. It's about how to do what you want, when you want, where you want, with the people you want for the amount you want. That's how you build the dream career. But the whole presentation is my failures. This is stupid crap I thought back then that I learned the hard way. Please learn from my mistakes. I know you're going to make your own mistakes. Just don't repeat mine. If I can give that gift to these, upcoming professionals, it's great. It's great. And the failures, gosh, so many failures, but then so many wonderful successes as well. I'm very proud of both sides.
I don't want to gloss over what you just said about the 5 things that you share on how to build your dream career, which I would also make the parallel your dream life.
Yeah.
And too many people, dare I say the vast majority, leave school. I guess we all maybe go into school not knowing how we're going to come out, but leave school with no idea, no clue, no plan, no specific direction. And while we don't have to have it all figured out, we should be going in the right, down the right road at least, or at least traveling in the right, direction on the compass. And it sounds like that's where you're orienting.
100%. It's interesting. So you can have a variety of passions, a variety of things that inspire you, but it's what suits you best, right? So my number one passion has been my country, my freedom. I was raised to love the red, white, and blue, and I still am a raging fan of freedom. My goodness, what could be more important or more exciting? And so when I came out of high school, I thought, well, maybe I'll join the Marine Corps. That's a great way to serve. And then I thought, who are you fooling? You're too chicken to stand in front of bombs and guns. So maybe not the Marine Corps. And then when I went to UF, I majored in political science. And really, at some point, you start thinking, well, what are you going to do with that degree? What can you do with that degree? Which is probably nothing, right? And then I thought, well, I'll go to law school because I would like to serve. And I think politics gives you the opportunity to help people. I mean, wherever we trash our politicians, I would say for the most part, most people run for office because they care about their community or their country, et cetera. So I thought, and I was naive. I thought for sure you have to be a lawyer to be a governor because all the governors I knew were lawyers, and none of the nice adults in my life corrected me and said, no, you can be a bus driver and be a governor. So thought I was going to go to law school. Preparing for that, it was my last semester of undergrad, and I had a class, and thank goodness this teacher did this. And this is one of the things I do with the classes when I lecture is he said, make a top 10 list of things you'd love to do. Just love, think for our fun and joy, passions, 10 things you love to do. And then make your top 10 list of things you can't stand doing. And so I made my list. On the top of my list, number 1 was sports and fitness. Number 2 was music. Number 3 was helping people. That's nerdy, but those are my top 3. And then on my hate list, number 1 was sitting down, and number 2 was reading. What do attorneys do all day?
Sit and read. Yeah.
Sit and read, right? So I had that. I could have had the V8, right? So I had that aha moment. And then I looked at my love list and I thought, oh, well, I'm already doing this thing that I love to do with music and sports and fitness and helping people. And then I had to figure out how to turn it into a career, which is a big leap because most fitness professionals have jobs, right? They teach 3 classes a week, or they do a little personal training for this or that. There's no benefits, there's no sick time, there's no future, right? And it's a good job if you're someone who only needs a job and you're married to someone who has a stable income. Perhaps that's a job, but I knew I wanted an actual career. I wanted a profession. And so that's where things got a little interesting. I had to figure things out. But, when I talk to the kids at the College of Health and Human Performance, most people are there because they desperately love sports and they love events and they love this. There's a very lovable industry that they have tried to get into. And what I find is sometimes they get out of school, they don't know what they're going to do. They can't become the athletic director of Notre Dame or like instantly this grand position. And so they take a job for their uncle selling rental cars or, pushing paper. And I lean in and say, don't sell out. You are here for a reason. You have a passion. You have something you're excited about. Do not lowball yourself. Do not go take a job because it's easy. Take a crappy job right now that gets you in with an organization you're desperate to be a part of, and then work your way up. I mean, I think especially this generation maybe has bigger expectations than they're qualified for from the start. And then there's a bunch of grownups who are really delusional about how to get to point B. And I think you get to point B by starting at, step 1, step 2, and going from there. But don't sell out. If you are in a job and you hate your job and you wish you were doing something else, start moving over. Don't just quit your job because you got bills to pay and perhaps children to feed, right? But if you do what you love, I mean, I really, other than doing taxes, I've never worked a day in my life. And I'm that person. I strongly believe that there's that opportunity for everybody if they choose wisely.
Yeah. I coincidentally, having this conversation with you this morning, I saw a clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger talking, and he quoted a statistic that said 78% of Americans hate their job, not just hate their job.
Unfathomable.
And that, I don't see that changing or going lower. But yet at the same time, he went on to say, and those 78% are sleepwalking through life. Like they're not taking any action to change that, which is sad, actually. It's kind of a
control what
statistic.
you can. Control what you can, folks. There is a life that is better for you. And it does start with you investing in yourself, your mental health, your physical health. If you are not doing well physically, trust me, you're not going to be good at anything. No one's going to like you. You're not going to like anybody. You just feel bad and you project that. But take care of you, control the things you can, and then baby steps. Baby steps will get you there every time.
This segment is sponsored by Rockbox Fitness Franchising. Take control of your destiny and join the boutique fitness revolution with Rockbox Fitness. If you're ready to make a real impact in your community and own your own business that empowers people to achieve their best life, then Rockbox is the opportunity you've been looking for. They provide comprehensive support from site selection, upfit, training, and turnkey marketing, so you can open your studio with confidence and a strong recurring revenue member base. Visit rockboxfitness.com and click on franchise opportunities to learn more about this exciting venture in the fast-growing boutique fitness industry. It's time to turn your passion for fitness and for business into a thriving venture. Fitz, if you can, walk us from, so you started getting involved in different aspects. You graduate with a master's, and then you start to monetize that, and then you start to get on in mass media. As you said, you have a real affinity to mass media. You can help more people. How does it build? How does it build from that one show to where you're a race announcer and you're doing all these other things? What is that path?
Yeah, everything is cumulative. Everything is cumulative. So while I was teaching fitness and finishing up grad school, I was also competing as a full contact kickboxer. I know, obviously, full contact kickboxer, but that's the sport I chose. And back in the day, it just wasn't as big deal of a sport. I mean, kickboxing itself was small. Their UFC was just becoming a thing. Certainly, there were very few women involved. And most of the women that were competing, and not to be disparaging, but they kind of pulled on the tough guy look, too. They'd get the little short hair and the Braxton jeans, and they wanted to look tough. And I just was a girl who was kind of a girl who liked to kick people in the head. And I was pretty good at kicking people in the head. And so I started to get a media coverage, and people were writing articles about me, full color spreads and Ultimate Athlete magazine and Black Belt and Kickbox, whatever. So that was very nice, except for they were screwing up all the information. They would make up quotes, made me sound like a dummy. They would misspell my name. Hey, there's 4 letters in my first name. Get it right. Fitz. How lazy are you if you can't get Fitz right? So anyhow, there was, every time I'd go to the bookstore and grab one of these magazines with enthusiasm, I'd be frustrated. So eventually I grew the cojones to ask if I could write the article. And they said yes. And they gave me money for it. And I thought, whoa, I got positive response, and they're giving me money. So started writing articles. My very first article was how to kick people in the head. I talked about the strength to lift your leg, the flexibility to get your leg that high, the strategy involved. And a few weeks later, after publishing, I get a letter from a guy in Kentucky that says, hey, just want to let you know, I've been doing combat sports, martial arts for years. And thanks to your article, I finally kicked someone in the head. And I thought, woohoo, there you go. So,
Love it.
Writing articles for money. Speaking was actually the long-term vision. That's something I, at 15, decided I was going to do, because I had already started volunteering, speaking to Girl Scout troops and weight loss groups and just small little entities for free, hone my skill and pass the message along. And so, yeah, I started charging. I started charging folks. I had sponsors. Everlast sponsored me. They would fund me to perform at Sports Authority grand openings and this or that. So I started to make a little money there. Started talking. I think maybe I was charging $50 or $100 my first early presentations, but whatever. It was an invitation with a $sign attached, and things just kept growing. So more TV, more magazines, more speaking, and then everything I do tends to build the other. It's funny. Sometimes people are so impressed that I have a fitness DVD. At this point, some people just don't care. Oh, you had a DVD? Who cares? Everybody's online, right? A few years ago, I was invited to come do a special on Home Shopping Network, which in my mind is kind of like, meh, who cares? Home Shopping Network. I was a guest, no big deal. Someone hired me instantly. Some man who said, I love home shopping network. How cool that you're on that. We want you to come work for us. I was like, okay. So, I find that everything I do leads to something else. And 2014, I'm also a sport performance expert. That's within my little titles, right? So I'm teaching strength training for runners. I'm teaching clinics for Walt Disney World and Disneyland. They have an endurance series, Run Disney, pretty big. And so I'd show up to all of their events as their fitness expert and take the stage, and the runners would hear about, how to prepare their body for these races so they don't get hurt and they can run further, faster, pain-free. Anyways, their race announcer was in charge of welcoming me to the stage, introducing me at all of these expos. And eventually he says, gosh, you're so engaging. You're so fun. People love you. I need a co-announcer for the OC Marathon in California in a few months. Are you interested? And I said, well, I've never done it before, but I'd love to give it a go. Kind of like Spa Lady, however many years ago. And he said, yeah, I'll show you the ropes. And the race director, we had a brief phone call. He went to fitzness.com. And he said, yeah, I'll give you a shot. I'd come out and announce our races. And within about an hour of yelling go for the first time, race director came over and said, would you come back next year? I said, absolutely. And he gave me 30,000 people that weekend who thought exercise was a good idea. All I had to do was make sure they knew what to do, where to go, make sure they felt welcome, wanted, excited, congratulated, and make sure they had a great time, which was fine by me. And so that has really spun out of control. I announce races all over the country. And again, those races lead to more keynotes. I would say the majority of my keynotes now come from runners who have just been at some of my races and thought she would be great at our corporation. So it all just feeds and builds off each other, which is great.
Well, the key word you said, I think how you started was it's all accretive. It's all cumulative.
Yep.
And that is where too many people, I tried it. It didn't work. Well, how long did you try it? A month? No, man, this is a long game. Business is a long game. And just look at what you just shared with the audience, how I did it for $50. I did it for free. Then I did it for $50, then $100. And then I tried this. And then I got thrown out of my comfort zone, but said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And then that led to this. And it is the long game. Not, no pun intended, because I know you announce marathons and races, but it is a marathon, right? It is a marathon. And too many people look at it as, I tried it, didn't work.
Yeah. I would say for the first 15 years of my career, I got lots and lots of no's. I would say the percentage of things that I tried to accomplish that people rejected me for were at least 51% negative. And now I almost never get told no. People invite me. And if I ever reach out for an opportunity, people say, absolutely, we want you. So you got to put in all the hard work to get to the point where you get more yeses than nos. And that certainly requires resiliency and strength. And, you can't let yourself get down. And again, all of those failures as a kid, every time I got cut from a team, man, it steeled me up. It steeled me up hardcore for the no's I would get professionally. And then, of course, when my biggest challenge ever came, I used all of those no's and all of that steel to survive.
So thank you for that amazingly easy bridge to go into that. Fitz, you were diagnosed with cancer, and that can be, it's devastating for anybody. I've had family members who've unfortunately been through that.
Me too.
And you, and the way you write about it in your book, the way that you talk about it publicly, you were not going to let this change who you were, what you were about, your mission. First, take us back to the diagnosis, and because people are hearing you, and you're this vivacious, colorful, just all, but you went through a really, really, really challenging time, and just share that, if you will.
Yeah, I went through hell. I was brutalized. I was absolutely brutalized. I was skeletal. I was that cancer patient. You wouldn't have recognized me back then. But late December 2018, I go in for a mammogram, crystal clear. There's nothing there. Nothing. The doctor didn't miss anything. There was nothing there. About 6.5 weeks later, I got out of the shower at a race weekend, and I, still naked, rubbed my underboob. I guess I had an itch, and I found a grape-sized lump. And thankfully, my phone was on the bathroom counter. Picked it up, called the gyno, and said, "Hey, I found a lump." And she said, "Oh, can you come in tomorrow?" And I said, "No, I'm running a race tomorrow." I said, "Okay, how about Monday?" I said, "Okay, I'll be in Monday." And so I didn't even tell anyone in my family. I just was like, okay, run this race, focus on what's in front of me right now. Don't panic. I have a very, very strong policy to not cry over milk that hasn't spilled. If I was going to freak out over this and they were like, yeah, it's just a cyst, that would have been a waste of my time and energy. And I was going to have a nice weekend. So I did. So anyways, within the next week or so, I had the appointment, the mammogram, the ultrasound where the radiologist said, hey, yeah, that mass looks suspicious, but you also have several hard swollen lymph nodes we're really concerned about. Next morning was a biopsy. A few days later, a surgeon called and said, Fitz, I'm so sorry, but you indeed have breast cancer. It has already spread to your lymph nodes. It is running through you like wildfire. We need to treat you urgently and aggressively. And so they did. I had 21 rounds of chemo every 3 weeks for about a year and a half. I had 33 rounds of radiation intermixed. I had several surgeries, and I was dragged behind a horse for a year and a half. It was brutal. There was not an ounce of my body, not a millimeter of my body that was not affected. It was so sick. And radiation for me at that point was an easier treatment. I got a mild sunburn, nothing too bad. Chemo was horrific. It was like living for me with a violent stomach bug every single day for a year and a half, right? And my fingernails ripped off and my eyes changed colored and all. I went bald pretty quickly and it just was brutal. But before I started my first treatment, which was chemo, I decided I made some great decisions and they benefited me so well. So number one, I decided that chemo was going to take some of my good feelings, I'm sure, my hair for certain, but it was not going to take time with my kids. And my kids were 15 and 13 at the time, Ginger and Parker. I decided if they had a sport, a ceremony, any sort of special event, I was going to be there. Even if I had to escape a hospital, I was going to get there. And I did. And it also was not going to steal my career. And this is the benefit of having a career that you're desperately in love with. It becomes a place of salvation, So maybe some people who hate their job, those 78%, they might say, woo, I can call in sick for 4 months. I thought, F no, I have earned my rightful spot on those stages. I knew that if the Big Sur Marathon were going to take place and I wasn't there, I would just cry. And being depressed was no benefit to me. So I decided I'm going. And so before I announced to anybody else, I called my race directors, which there were many. I said, hey, and I did it via FaceTime so they could see me and maybe see a smile and believe me. I said, hey, bad news, good news. Bad news, I have breast cancer. Good news, they believe I'm curable. I'm going to show up. I might look a little weird, but I'm going to perform as expected. And so I make this commitment. I make these calls, having no idea what I'm in for. Because sometimes people have chemo and they just feel kind of mousy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. A lot of people get through it just fine. I am not that person. So things hit the fan really quickly. I lost the majority of my hair at the finish line of the LA Marathon, which is its own exciting tale. But when things started really going downhill physically, I had to go get IV fluids every weekday here in Gainesville at my hometown. But if I had to fly to California from Florida, that's 12 hours in the air. I'd get off the plane, and then dehydration was a real risk. So my race directors, many of them were organizing medical professionals to meet me at my hotel to get me IV fluids wherever I was. And so it was really interesting. That's not only my commitment to me, but my running community, these incredible people. I hope whoever you are, you work with people that you care about, and that's reciprocal. So they certainly extended themselves to get me, the fluids I needed. But it was phenomenal how bad I could feel. I would sleep on many of those hotel bathroom floors. And then I'd wake up at 4 a.m. to get to the start line because most races start real early. And no matter how bad I felt, the second I stepped onto those stages, every single thing that was wrong with me disappeared. The second I stepped foot on a stage surrounded by those thousands of athletes serving these fine organizations, all of my exhaustion went away. My illness went away. I wasn't suffering at all. I got to be full force Fitz Koehler, and it was salvation. It was mind-boggling how I could go from the worst to feeling the best and function at such a high level as long as I had an athlete out on the course. And that's the real beauty of a passion and pursuing this passion, whether it's your family or your career. I have this thing that I do that I would do even if my life were at risk during it, right? It was such a blessing. And I can tell you that if I did not have that outlet, all I would have been was sick. I would have been was sick. And sometimes with cancer, people tell their aunt, oh, you got to stay home. Don't go to work. Don't go to the movies. Don't just stay home. You know who we isolate? We isolate prisoners on death row. We do not isolate our favorite person battling a non-contagious disease, right? We want to get those people into a place where they can have a little reprieve and feel good. And it was such a blessing to me. And so, yeah, I'm hardcore about people pursuing their passions no matter what. And if you really have built a career that you love or surrounded yourself by the right people, you will stay the course. Even if your house burns down, even if you get a divorce, even if your grandpa gets sick, you will find a way to continue forward. And isn't that the right thing?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, something that wasn't lost on me, your book, My Noisy Cancer Comeback, for those of you watching on YouTube, holding it up right now, there's several pictures in here. It's great. And it's not just one of those things where a lot of people will just put pictures right in the middle, right? But you've got them like throughout the book. And I noticed when you were treating your cancer and chemo, of course, took your hair, you unabashedly just were there without a wig, without a whatever those are called, bandana, hat, whatever. You were just like, this is me. I'm going through this, love it or hate it, but this is me, and I'm going to unabashedly be who I am. That takes courage.
I guess so. It's interesting. Before I started treatment, I wanted something fun to do with my kids, and I was kind of on the fence. I thought, well, maybe I'll wear a wig. What do I know? We went into a wig shop, and this sweet lady, after she prayed on my head, she started putting these different wigs on, and I just felt, each one of them made me sadder and sadder. It felt weird. And then I just decided, screw that. I know I'm in for a beating type thing. There's no way I'm going to make my life more difficult, more uncomfortable. I'm not going to do anything to inflict harm on myself. And to me, those wigs would have been it. And so, yeah, I decided no wig. I'm just going to be who I'm going to be. I'm not a model. Nobody on earth chooses me based on my appearance. Do I like to look pretty? My version of pretty, I do my best. Did I like looking in the mirror when I had no hair on my head or my lashes or my brows? I felt like Voldemort. I did not feel cute at all, but I knew there was also some level of responsibility. The very first race I announced bald, it was cold. And so on a regular day, I wear fuzzy hats. Even with all this hair, I would wear a fuzzy hat. But it was a cold day. I was in Encinitas, California. I think we had about 7,000, 8,000 athletes. And so I just made a decision that day. I knew most of them knew what was going on with me. Some of them probably had no idea who the hell I was, right? But there was a lot of people who knew who I was and what was going on. And I just decided, I knew that many of the people that were lining up that day would one day lose their hair to cancer. And I just wanted to show them that it was okay. And so I debuted my bald head. Encinitas. It was cold, but it was just fine. And, I definitely wore some hats sometimes because it was cold. And then sometimes around children, because if kids are the focus, I don't want them to be scared or concerned or, take the attention off of them. But yeah, it's my head. It's my head. And so be it. Right.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think it's great.
Thank you. But on that note, I'm so happy to have hair. Sometimes people say your hair looks great. And I still say it's so great to have hair. And they might have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm still so happy to have hair. So hooray for hair.
We're always most grateful for something when we've lost it, when we've once had it, then lost it and got it back. Right. So
yes, for sure.
Yeah. Gratitude for sure. This segment is sponsored by Beamlight Sauna Franchising. Are you looking to take control of your destiny and own your own business? Do you want a great brand in a rapidly growing market? Well, Beamlight Sauna is a nationwide health and wellness franchise with amazing opportunities in select markets. You can bring the power of infrared sauna and red light therapy to your community while you build a thriving business. Beamlight Sauna offers support that includes site selection, build out, even pre-launch programs and turnkey marketing so you can open your studio with a large recurring revenue member base. To learn more about business ownership and franchise opportunities in the fast-growing health and wellness space, go to beamlightsauna.com. That's BEEM lightsauna.com and click on franchise opportunities to learn more. The way you've explained it and the way you write about it, you would, and you said you dragged you through hell. So how does it, but you never gave up. So how did you return to, the super fit, very active person that you are? Was that a slow transition? Was it, hey, I'm cleared, so now I'm going all in? What does that look like to recover from cancer and then return to this, incredibly fit, ultra athlete?
So that's an excellent question. I can tell you that I was committed to doing what I could when I could, even once my treatment started. So even if I had a sick in bed day, which there were a lot of those, I was doing leg lifts, I was stretching. When I got in the shower, I took lots of showers. I would always turn on Jerry Seinfeld interviews because he makes me happy. And listen to him, and I would stretch in the shower. So fitness should be maintained as aggressively as possible during treatment, whether you're having a transplant or a whatever. Strength and stamina, flexibility, mobility are all going to go a long way. The last thing you want is a cancer and a skull fracture because you fell, right? So fitness was always a priority. However, the reality is my treatment was mean, and I lost 15 pounds I was 124 and I lost 15 pounds and I became this little skeleton. It was about the time my mother said, "You need to eat. You look like you're in the Holocaust." And I said, "Thanks, Mom." So for starters, thanks. I'm doing my best. But at that point, it was right after my surgery and I had been cleared to go back to the gym to start strength training with equipment and so forth. And I sat down on a machine and I realized that I had lost about 80% of my strength. It was pretty bad. And I thought, "Oi, this is rough stuff." But I also thought, well, I'm a fitness pro. I know how to do that. And so instantly in my head, I thought, first, do no harm. I'm not going to go overboard on anything. I'm going to take these little tiny baby steps. I'm going to do teeny little things to get me to the next thing, And that was really the MO for everything. That moment was also the impetus for the next two books, which are Your Healthy Cancer Comeback and the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. Because if you go online, you will find zero resources. All the oncology professionals will tell a cancer patient, you should exercise, you should eat right. None of them tell them how because they're not fitness pros, right? So I use my experience and my expertise to create the guidebooks. I wish I had one here, but Your Healthy Cancer Comeback is the book that I want in the hands of every cancer patient and survivor moving forward. It's a game changer. It will help you do better through whatever treatment, whatever type of cancer you have. But for myself, it was just little things. I got in the pool and I wiggled. I didn't even try to walk or dance or swim. I just wiggled. And then that became walking and then became swimming. And then it was longer distance swimming. And, building up strength was a high priority. And it's interesting because I've always, for a long time, I felt like my body was healthy. It looked right. And then I was skin and bones. That's a weird thing to see. That's very strange. So putting on muscle has been a very high priority. And again, you can't get 30% stronger overnight. So all you can aim is 1% at a time. And I did that pretty well. About a month after chemo, after it was all over, thankfully, Florida was still open. Yay, Florida. It was during the COVID stuff, but we had a Spartan race and I went there and I did that 5K and I failed on most of the strength things, but it just was I giggled. It was a flooded trail and it was so much fun. I got to feel like I was alive again. And that was brilliant. And then I think it was a week or two later, I did a mini triathlon. I mean, again, I was dead last person. I suffocated the whole way. I got passed by pregnant people, elderly, obese children. Everybody finished before me, but I was so proud of me. And I think once you face real hardship, you know that, the struggle involved in trying to ride your bike up a hill is way, way more fun than sitting and being poisoned for 9 hours at a time. So, that was great. And I just kept going little steps. And then randomly I was invited to run the Boston Marathon, which I had no interest in doing up until that point. I thought, well, I don't want to do that. And then I thought, well, how hard could it be compared to cancer? I mean, why would I say no, right? It's an adventure. I should take it. So I ran the Boston Marathon and I didn't do it quickly, but I had a lot of fun. And most people, if you know that you have to qualify for Boston, you're right. There's a lot of speedsters that are on that lineup, but there's also a big group of charity runners. And so someone said, would you please run this for this charity? And I said, oh, okay. And, running the marathon was pretty cool. And since then, I've been working on strength, still trying to put on muscle. And just recently I was invited to do a Dancing with the Stars competition. And I did. And I did the jive. I performed the jive in front of a live audience of 600 and thousands online. And it went pretty well. And, I would not go back and have cancer if I could. So some people were like, cancer is the best thing that happened to me. I am not that girl. And if I could go back and flip the switch and not have cancer, you betcha. Flip that stupid switch. But I can't. So, it's big lemonade for me to be able to use my experience to help other people. So every time someone reaches out and says, Dad's got brain cancer, can you ship your books? I go, it makes me sad about Dad, but it makes me happy I can help. And then it takes everything else in life and makes it less scary, more doable. I'm committed to, since I had 21 rounds of chemo, I am committed to 21 rounds of extraordinary adventure, whether things challenge me physically or mentally, or just make me laugh a lot. I'm game, and I'm going to make the latter half of my life even more satisfying than the first half. Thanks, cancer.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. Is there anything that's on the docket in the near future of one of those 21?
Well, I'm kind of in the works. So I started in August, I decided to start learning guitar. I just thought, well, that would be fun. It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, why not? Life is short. So on my list of things that I'd like to do, and I don't have a full list, but I would like to play this guitar on a stage with a band. So just, I can be the strummer, the strum to whatever.
Rhythm
Sister
guitar,
Hazel is here in Gainesville. I'm hoping maybe the leaders, Ken and Andrew, will invite me to do that. I'd be happy to do that. I would like to be a walker on The Walking Dead. And not just a walker. I want to be a crawling torso, someone without legs.
That's very specific. I love the specificity of it. That's great.
Yeah, maybe like my jaw dropping off. And then I'd like to be on a game show. I have, I'm leaning into some interesting things. I'm open to suggestions, and why not? Right?
I'll tell you right now, you are the first guest I've interviewed in almost 70 shows that when I've asked them like what they want to do next, said they wanted to be a walker on The Walking Dead, but only a half torso and their jaw fall off. That's gotta be the best answer I've ever gotten to that question. Like, I don't know how somebody's going to beat that one. I don't know. So you have this mission. You've talked several times and you've referenced that you love to be able to help people. You love mass media because you have a much bigger reach and you can help more people. If I understand, your mission is to add 10 years to everyone's life with whom you come in contact.
Quality life, yeah.
Quality, add quality of life too. How did you decide like that? Because that's also an awesome responsibility too.
Well, perhaps. What I saw is that people who take good care of themselves, they do live longer. However, it's no fun to live really long if you're not living well. You're going to spend the last 10 years of your life in a chair, or pinned down to a bed, and you can't dance or golf or play with your great-great-grandkids. What's the purpose? And so all of that starts now. Whatever age you are right now, whether you're 20 or 50 or 70 listening, it starts today. You have to earn that. And so if I can encourage you to start doing better with what you put in your mouth, it's interesting. So many people, we say, well, I can't eat healthy. I have kids. Oh, really? You can't? It's your high priority. It's your obligation to eat healthy. You have kids. You got a role model for them. You got to provide them the good stuff. And you got to be around, right? You don't have the kids, so you abandon them, die young. Now they're left without your guidance and your love and support. So you need to eat healthy because you have kids. They're not your get out of jail free on the healthy eating. And then the same thing goes with moving your body. There's YouTube, right? Instagram, TikTok, whatever you're watching, there's always a video of some 90-year-old breaking some running record or gymnastics. And you think, whoa, how does that happen? Well, that's because that man or that woman decided early on to take care of their body and they just kept doing it. It's not complicated. Yep. You don't have to run a marathon. You don't ever have to run a marathon. You don't have to run a step, but you should do something. And the 4 pillars of fitness are cardio, strength, flexibility, balance. All 4 pillars matter. and put a little bit of effort into each and watch what you put in your mouth, get the quality sleep, remove the cranky people. And you can have a longer, more fabulous life filled with more adventure and far less pain. And we look at some of our older folks and we think, we don't want to live that way, right? So set yourself up for success.
Yep. Yeah. That my biggest fear is not dying. It's living and something terrible happening or my health atrophying. And that last part of my life, I don't really live.
Yeah.
Like that to me, that's the scariest thing in the world to me.
Yes.
I would much rather like go out swinging and, just sliding into the grave, sideways on a motorcycle or something than fade away. That truly is a fear for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there you have it. I mean, there's some people within fitness, they're the yoga person or the Pilates person or the kickbox, whatever it is. I'm not that person. My job, my role is to convince people that it's a necessity, right? That this health and fitness thing is important. And then make it simple, stupid, teach them how, and then compel them to do better. And so I think 10 years of quality of life on everyone who I come across is incredibly doable. And I'm sure someone in your audience is thinking, she's a blowhard. I don't like her. I'm never going to go to fitzness.com. But then you do have some listeners that are saying, you know what, she's right. And I could do better. And I will do better. And then, this has bbeen worth both of our time, right?
Yep. Amen. I always ask 3 questions to end before we find out how people can get a hold of you. Obviously, they can go to fitzness.com. And we'll actually put it in the show notes so that people can spell it FITZNESS. But I always ask the same 3 questions. And I just am really interested in this first question because you've written several books. You've been an athlete. You've been successful. Again, been on in magazines and television. And you've gone through this crazy health, crisis that you've conquered. Is there a book that you've leaned into? It can't be a religious text, that's too easy. But is there a book that you've leaned into that maybe you even read more than once that gave you strength, gave you insight into something? It could be fitness, business, life, self-care, whatever, that you could recommend to the listeners?
Okay, so this is a book I read. It was an audiobook. I'm a big audiobook person, and I had to listen to this maybe on the way home from college. It was a long time ago, but it's called Pushing the Envelope by Harvey Mackay. And I can't tell you that it has helped me through hard times, but the thing that I've struggled with most is being a good business person, having courage in business, having a willingness to ask and being prepared to negotiate. And that book, Pushing the Envelope, taught me how to ask and how to negotiate. And if you can't do those things, I don't think you have any shot of being successful in business. So not a hard times book, but a pragmatic, nuts and bolts business book.
Yeah. Wow. You just took me back. I've read a couple of his because he wrote Swimming with the Sharks, I believe.
Okay.
And then Pushing the Envelope, because if I recall his business where he made his millions, he had an envelope business, like an envelope sales, and that is such a play on where I love it. I think that's probably one of the best titles ever for his business books. But man, you just took me back, because that's like 25 years ago, right? Like that
ago.
Yeah, that book's a while. Yeah, I had to draw back there. All right, couple last questions, and this one's a little different, but again, I'm fascinated just anticipating your answer. If we fast forward to the end of your beautiful, rich life after you've checked all 21 of those special boxes, and having gone through what you've gone through, but within your life, and Fitz, we're at your funeral, and you're looking down from above, and a loved one is reading your eulogy, and that loved one is only allowed 3 descriptors, 3 words to describe the life you lived and how what impact you had on them, or who you represented to them. But it was just 3 words. What 3 descriptors do you hope that they choose?
Joy and passion, definitely the first 2. And people. I just love my people. I'm better for them, and they fill my soul up so completely.
I love it. And then the last one, and this one kind of fun too. And again, for a person who's been through so much and seen so much, if I were to give you a magic wand, Fitz, and you could wave that magic wand tonight, and change the world, just the way the world operates in one way, but just in one way, and you wave that magic wand tonight, we wake up tomorrow, how is the world different according to Fitz Koehler?
I mean, I could go a few ways here. I'm not going to go to fixing, curing cancer because we all want that, right?
Sure.
There's two things I go between. Number one would be perspective. I think, for me, I couldn't complain about cancer because I wasn't a kid with cancer and it wasn't my kid with cancer. So I did have sad moments, but I never basked in it. And I think with perspective, you're kinder, you're gentler, you're also more aggressive and motivated. So perspective would be a big thing. But I also feel like I would just have everybody eat right and exercise and get the quality sleep. I think when you're taking care of yourself, you're much nicer, you're much more productive and successful. So either of those. But probably, I guess I have to go with health and fitness, right? It's who I am. Perspective, a really close second.
Yeah. I don't want those are hard to choose between, because with the right perspective, you'll get that other one. You'll get health and fitness, right?
Yep.
With health and fitness, it'll give you a different perspective. So yeah, kind of a two sides of a coin. So most important question, where, other than your website, or maybe it is your website, what is the best way to get a hold of you, to follow you, to be part of your journey, or to learn more? How would the listeners do that?
Yeah, thank you. And I love when people follow, and I always promise quality content in return, but I really prefer when they connect. So I'm hoping all of ThriveMore listeners will reach out and say hello. So fitzness.com is my home base for everything. But I'm also at Fitzness on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. I'm very busy on LinkedIn. So however you'd like to reach out, I'd love to connect. And please say hi, and please tell me you heard me on Roger's podcast, and we can be besties, because who can't use some more besties, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Well, Fitz, again, I said earlier, you just radiate. I hope the majority of people watch this on YouTube so they can see you, because you smile from ear to ear, and you are incredibly authentic in the way you present your story. So thank you so much for taking the time to join today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any of the resources that we mentioned during the podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. You can connect with me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. And be sure to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thanks again for tuning in.